put the phone down for a second, not on your lap, not face down on the table where you can still feel it vibrate. Down, away, because what I am about to say to you is not the kind of thing that can compete with notifications. It is not the kind of thing that fits between one scroll and the next. And if you have ever in your life needed to be fully present for something, if there has ever been a moment that required all of you and not just the part that is half listening, while the other half is already somewhere else, this is that moment. I do not say that to every person. I cannot say that to every person because this is not for every person. Some people are going to hear these first words and feel nothing and move on, and that is exactly right for them. But you are not moving on. Something caught, something in the first 3 seconds of this made you stay, and you do not fully know why yet. You will, but right now I just need you to stay. I need you to put your full weight on this moment, because God did not bring you here for the half of you. He brought you here for all of you. And what he has to say, what he has been waiting for exactly this moment to say, is not something your distracted mind can hold. It requires your whole mind. It requires the part of you that you usually keep very quiet, the part that knows things before you have evidence for knowing them, the part that has been trying to tell you something for months now that you have been too busy, too cautious, too afraid of your own perception to fully receive. That part, I need that part of you awake right now. So settle in and listen. You have been carrying something that does not have a clean name, and because it does not have a clean name, you have been unable to explain it to anyone, which means you have been carrying it entirely alone. It is not quite anger, though there is anger in it. It is not quite grief, though there is grief in it. It is not quite fear, though fear lives somewhere near its edges. The closest word might be betrayal, but even that is not quite right, because betrayal implies you fully trusted the thing that failed you, and somewhere in the back of your mind you always knew, you always sensed that the structure was not what it presented itself to be, that the men and women in the rooms where decisions get made were not making the decisions you were told they were making. That the chain of command, the one that was supposed to run from the people upward into power and then back down as accountability, had been quietly, systematically, invisibly reversed, so that the command ran from somewhere you could not see, down through the institutions you were told to trust, and into the life you were living in ways you could not quite trace but could absolutely feel. You felt it when the thing that was supposed to happen did not happen. You felt it when the person who was supposed to act did not act. You felt it in the silence that followed the moment where someone should have spoken, the silence where a general should have stood, the silence where an order should have been given, the silence that told you, without words, without a press release, without a single honest headline, told you that something had been decided in a room you were not in. Something that affected everything you held, and no one was going to tell you what it was. What if I told you that the silence was not defeat? What if I told you that the room you were not in, the room where the general stood down, where the orders were not given, where the people who were supposed to act chose the safety of inaction over the cost of truth? What if I told you that room was never the room where the real decision was being made? What if the room where the real decision is made has always been a room that none of them have ever had access to? Not the generals, not the architects of the systems you watched fail you, not the ones who smile on camera while the structure buckled behind them, not any of them, because the authority they were performing, the authority they borrowed and leveraged and wore like a costume, was never the original authority. And the original authority has never stood down. It has never been confused. It has never been compromised, captured, managed, or bought. It has been watching the whole thing, and it has been waiting, not passively, not helplessly, but strategically, with the patience of something that exists outside of the time pressure that makes human beings panic waiting for the exact moment that is now approaching. And you, in your sensing of the betrayal, in your refusal to accept the managed silence as the final answer, in your stubborn insistence that something was wrong when everyone around you was performing normalcy, you were not just a concerned citizen, you were not just a disgruntled observer, you were positioned, you were formed for this, you were placed in exactly the seat you are in, with exactly the perception you carry, for exactly what is coming, and what is coming is not more silence. There are people in your life who have been doing something very specific to you, and they have been doing it so carefully that you have questioned your own perception of it more than once. They are not doing it consciously. Most of them, that is what makes it so difficult to name. It is not a conspiracy among people who know each other. It is a convergence of conditioning of the same programming running in different bodies, producing the same output, your silence, your doubt, your withdrawal from the thing you were appointed to carry. They are the ones who say, with genuine concern in their voices, that you are too intense about this, that you need to find balance, that not everything is connected, that the people in charge, whatever their flaws, are ultimately just doing their best, and it is not fair to hold them to a standard of perfection. They say these things and they believe them. They are not lying to you. They are relaying a program that was installed in them a long time ago, a program designed to protect the system from the people who might disrupt it by simply asking why the general stood down. And so when you ask that question not aggressively, not with a tinfoil hat, not with a manifesto, but with genuine and righteous and reasonable insistence, they reach for the program. And the program says, make them feel crazy. Not deliberately, not cruelly, just efficiently. A look, a redirect, a change of subject that is so smooth you almost miss it. A concerned question about your mental health that arrives precisely when you are closest to the thing they cannot afford you to reach. Your spirit has noticed, you have filed it, and the filing was right. Your job right now, and I want to be very precise about this, because there is a version of this message that would send you running into action, and that version would be wrong. Your job right now is not to force the moment. It is not to make the generals move on your timetable. It is not to extract confessions from the people who stood down. It is not to win the argument with the people who carry the program. Your job right now is to hold your position, to stay in the seat you were placed in, to maintain the clarity you have been given without letting the frustration of the timeline corrode it into something harder and colder than it was designed to be. Because the clarity was given to you as a gift, and gifts carried in anger become weapons, and this is not supposed to be a weapon. This is supposed to be a light, and a light that is trying to prove itself is not a light. It is a performance, and the difference between a light and a performance is the difference between something that actually illuminates and something that only draws attention to the one holding it. Stay still enough to be the former. Stay rooted enough to resist becoming the latter. The order is not yours to give before the time, but when the time comes, and it is coming, it is closer than the length of the wait has made it feel. The order will come through you in a way that you are not fully prepared for yet, and the preparation for that moment is happening right now in the stillness, in the holding, in the refusing to force what is not yet ready to move. You feel guilty about the distance you have put between yourself and certain conversations, certain gatherings, certain people who used to be closer. You feel the guilt of it, most in the moments when you know they're talking and you are not there, when the group chat goes quiet after something you said, and you feel the specific cold of being the one who disrupted the comfort of the agreement. You have pulled back, and part of you wonders whether that pulling back is cowardice or whether it is something else. I want to tell you that it is something else. The distance is not abandonment. The quiet is not weakness. The fact that you are no longer spending your energy trying to wake up people who have chosen, on some deep level, to stay asleep, that is not failure, that is discernment becoming practice. You are not responsible for the comfort of people who are comfortable inside a system that is lying to them. You are not responsible for managing their peace, while the thing you carry has no place in the room they are maintaining. Protecting your clarity is not selfishness. Guarding the thing that was given to you, the perception, the knowing, the refusal to normalize the abnormal, that is not pride, that is stewardship. Chosen one, you were not chosen to be endlessly available to every conversation that has no interest in the truth you carry. You were chosen to carry the truth until the moment it is needed. And that moment requires a version of you that has not been worn down by 1,000 arguments that were never really about the truth. Protect that version, even if it costs you the appearance of being warm, even if it costs you some relationships that were built on a version of you that no longer fully exists. The ones who are supposed to be with you in what is coming will find you. And they will find you because of who you have become in the quiet, not in spite of it. Very soon, and I use those words not as a platitude, but as a specific and literal declaration over your life. Very soon, the architecture of silence that has been holding this moment back is going to crack, not gradually, not in the slow way things have been moving, suddenly, in the way that things held under tremendous pressure crack. When the pressure finally exceeds the structure's capacity to contain it, not slowly, not with warning, but all at once. And when that crack happens, the things that have been held behind it are going to move at a speed that disorients everyone who was not prepared. The generals who stood down are going to be required to answer for the standing down, not in the court of public opinion, which is still to manage to be trusted with that verdict. In a higher court, in the kind of reckoning that does not require a camera or a headline to be real, the evidence that was buried is going to surface, not because someone finally got brave, though some people will get brave, but because the thing that was buried has been pushing upward toward the light with a force that no amount of institutional weight can permanently resist. You are going to watch things you were told were impossible happen. You are going to see names that were protected become exposed. You are going to hear admissions from places that have never admitted anything. You are going to watch the people who told you that you were imagining it stand in the middle of the confirmation of exactly what you were imagining. And you will feel something in that moment that you need to prepare for, not triumph. Something quieter than triumph, something that has more grief in it than you expected. Because the vindication of the truth has never felt the way it looks from a distance. Up close, it feels like loss as much as victory. Prepare your heart for that. Let yourself be a person who can hold both. Your body has been trying to tell you something and you have been explaining it away. The tightness that lives in your chest when you are watching a news segment that is performing information while withholding it, the tightness is not anxiety. It is your body's intelligence flagging a contradiction between what it is being presented and what it knows to be true. The headache that arrives in specific conversations with specific people who carry the program that is not stress. That is your nervous system registering something that your social conditioning is asking you to ignore. The exhaustion that settles over you after you have spent time in environments where you are required to perform a level of normalcy you no longer fully inhabit, that is not depression. That is the metabolic cost of being an awake person in a room full of managed sleep. Your body is not broken. Your body is extraordinarily functional. It is functioning as a precision instrument in an environment that is full of interference, and it is reporting the interference accurately. The dreams that have been strange lately, more vivid than usual, more specific, carrying images and impressions that feel less like the random noise of a processing mind and more like transmission. Those dreams are not your anxiety leaking into your unconscious. They are instruction, they are preparation, they are your spirit receiving in the night what the noise of the day makes it difficult to receive while you are waking. Write them down, not because you need to analyze them, because some of them are showing you things you will need to remember later. The body that carries this assignment was built for this assignment. Trust it. It knows more than you give it credit for. It has been trying to brief you every morning, and you have been reaching for your phone before it can finish. You have not told anyone about some of the things you have seen, not the information, not the articles and the threads and the documents. I mean the other things, the things that cross the line from information into experience. The moment you were watching something that was supposed to be routine and you felt a cold clarity that you did not ask for and did not know how to hold, the clarity that told you this is not what it appears to be, and the certainty was so complete that it frightened you a little. The number that appeared 3 times in the same hour on a day when you had asked, quietly and privately, for a sign that you were not losing your mind. The dream that came the night before, the thing you had no way to anticipate, the dream that you remembered in the afternoon when the thing happened and you Saturday with it, in the peculiar silence of a person who has just received confirmation they were not fully prepared for. The song, the song, the one that came on at the exact wrong or exactly right moment, and you were alone and you let yourself feel what it meant, and then you put it away because there was no one to tell it to who would not look at you the way people look at you when you say things like this. You are not imagining those moments. You are not constructing meaning out of coincidence because you need it. Those moments are real communication. They are the frequency that God uses for the people. He cannot reach through the noise. You have been hearing them because you have been tuned for them. That tuning did not happen by accident. That tuning happened because you were needed, and the signal has been confirming the need consistently. State end. The transmissions are not finished. The person you are becoming through this season is not someone you could have designed. And that is how you know it is real, because if it were the product of your own ambition, your own strategy, your own self-improvement architecture, it would look more like you intended. It would match the version of transformation you would have chosen if you had been given the choice. But it does not match that. It is stranger than that, more angular in places, quieter in places you expected to be loud, more certain in places you expected to still be working things out. You went in needing the approval of the room to feel that what you knew was real. You are coming out knowing that the room's approval is irrelevant to what is real. You went in reactive, triggered by every dismissal, destabilized by every contradiction, exhausted by the effort of making people understand. You are coming out discerning, able to feel the dismissal without being moved by it, able to sit in the contradiction without needing to immediately resolve it, able to let people not understand without taking it personally. You went in broadcasting because you needed to be heard. You are coming out broadcasting because you were made to transmit. You went in holding the truth like a cause. You are coming out holding it like a commission. You went in asking who gave them the right to stand down. You are coming out understanding that the question was never about them. It was always about you, about what you would do with the clarity, about whether you would let the betrayal make you bitter or whether you would let it make you useful, about whether the rage at the generals who stood down would become a dead end or a fuel source, about whether you would give the order, not the order that topples a system that is not yours to give, the order that steadies the room, the order that says, "We are not done here," the order that holds the line when everyone else is looking for permission to let it go. That order, that is yours. that has always been yours. And the season you have just come through, the grief and the isolation and the exhaustion and the being called crazy and the silent nights of holding things you could not put down, all of it was the preparation for the steadiness that order requires. You are not the same person who started this. You could not give this order as the person you were before, but you can give it now, and the moment is arriving. The generals who stood down made a calculation. They looked at the cost and they looked at the reward, and they made the calculation that human beings make when they are operating from the part of them that is afraid. They decided that the position was worth more than the truth the position required them to defend. They decided that the institution was worth more than the principle the institution was built to protect. They decided that the approval of the people who held their future in their hands was worth more than the accountability owed to the people whose futures depended on them, and in making that calculation, they did what every person does who steps away from their assignment. They created a vacancy, and vacancies in the order of things are not permanent. They are not signals that the assignment has been cancelled. They are invitations. They are the specific shape of a need that has not yet been filled, and they are always eventually filled not by the people who were supposed to fill them and chose not to, but by the people who were being prepared in the obscurity of their private seasons for exactly the shape of need. The generals stood down and created the opening. The opening has your name on it, not in the military sense, not in the geopolitical sense, in the sense that matters more than either of those, the spiritual, generational, consequence-laden sense, the sense in which a person stepping into their assignment changes the atmosphere of every room they enter, changes the courage level of every person who witnesses them refuse to stand down, changes the calculation for every other person who is watching to see whether the cost of truth is survivable. When you stand, when you give the order that your clarity requires, you are not just acting for yourself. You are acting for everyone who is watching to see if it is possible. And there are more of them watching than you know. I want to talk to you about the specific texture of what is coming, because I think you have been braced for something harsher than what God has actually prepared. You have been carrying the weight of this for so long that some part of you has made peace with the idea that the carrying might be permanent, that this might just be what your life is, a long, exhausting, mostly private vigil for something that keeps not quite arriving. And I understand why you have made peace with that. It is a survival adaptation. It is your mind protecting you from the grief of expecting and not receiving. But I want to disrupt that peace carefully and with great love, because that peace, while understandable, is built on an inaccuracy. The arrival is not permanent delay. The arrival is imminent, and it is going to feel nothing like what the long wait condition you to expect. It is not going to arrive as a reward. It is going to arrive as a responsibility. It is not going to feel like relief first. It is going to feel like wait first, a specific, purposeful, finally correctly placed wait. The weight of a thing that has found its proper position after being out of alignment for too long. And under that weight, which will feel like pressure before it feels like power, there will be a deep, quiet, almost wordless recognition. A recognition that says, yes, this is it. This is what the long preparation was for. This is the room I was being built for. And that recognition will not need validation. It will not need anyone else to confirm it. It will be self-evident in the way that very few things in life ever are. And you will be ready for it, not because you trained for it the way you would train for something you chose, but because you were refined for it, the way that something is refined by fire, not destroyed but clarified, not diminished but distilled into exactly what it was always meant to be. The order you give does not have to be loud. That is the thing about orders given from genuine authority. They do not require volume. The generals who stood down were loud. Their silence was loud. Their press releases were loud. Their careful, managed, strategic non-answers were loud. All of that loudness was the sound of people trying to use performance as a substitute for authority they had surrendered. Real authority is quiet. Real authority is the person in the room who says one thing and the temperature changes, who asks one question and the whole direction of the conversation shifts, who refuses to accept the premise of the managed narrative, and in that refusal creates the space for everyone else in the room to remember that they were not required to accept it either. That is the order, not a speech, not a declaration, not a manifesto, a refusal, a stay, clear, unperformative, unafraid refusal to pretend that what stood down was acceptable, to pretend that the silence was neutral, to pretend that the absence of accountability is the same as the impossibility of accountability. Your refusal to pretend is the order, and it is already changing rules you do not know about. It is already reaching people who have not been able to tell you what your courage cost them to witness. It is already planting something in conversations you walked away from and forgot. The order has been going out. You just have not been able to hear the echo yet, but the echo is real, and it is building. This is a moment in history that is going to be written about. I know that sounds grand, and I know the gap between the grandness of a statement like that and the reality of where you are sitting right now, which is probably somewhere ordinary. In a life that has not felt particularly historic, I know that gap can make a statement like that feel empty, like something said to make you feel significant rather than something that is actually true. But I am not saying it for that reason. I am saying it because the nature of historic moments is that they are always made by people who are sitting somewhere ordinary. That is what makes them historic. It is not the grandness of the setting. It is the choice made in the ordinary setting that becomes the pivot. The general who refused to stand down when all the other generals stood down that moment happened in an ordinary room. The person who asked the question that cracked the official narrative, they asked it in an ordinary conversation, with ordinary clothes, in an ordinary voice. The one who gave the order, when everyone was waiting for someone to give it, they did not feel historic in the moment. They felt afraid and certain at the same time, afraid because they understood the cost, certain because they understood the alternative, and they gave the order, and the thing moved, and the route changed, and history recorded it. Later, in words that made it sound inevitable, but in the moment it was not inevitable. In the moment it was a choice made by a specific person who had been prepared by a specific season that looked, from the inside, like mostly confusion and cost. That is your season. This is your moment. Not the one 5 years from now when the confirmation has arrived and the vindication is public. This one, right now, in the ordinary room, in the life that does not look like the stage of something significant. This is the moment, and you are not here by accident. Stay, that is the whole instruction. Stay awake, stay rooted, stay clear. Stay in the assignment, even when the assignment looks like nothing is happening. Stay in the refusal, even when the refusal is costing you more than the compliance would. Stay in the knowing, even when the knowing is lonely. Stay in the order giving, even when no one has confirmed that the order was received. Stay in the broadcasting, even when the signal feels like it is going into silence, because the silence is not empty. The silence is full of people who are not yet able to confirm receipt but are receiving. And the day is coming, it is genuinely, specifically, actually coming when the confirmation will arrive, when the thing you have been holding will be seen, when the order you gave into the apparent void will be revealed to have moved something that you did not have eyes to see moving, when the generals who stood down will be held in the light of the generals who did not, and the difference between them will be named clearly, and the cost of standing will be understood in full, and you will be among the ones who stood. You will be among the ones who gave the order when it was not safe to give it. You will be among the ones who broadcast the truth when the media went dark and the systems failed, and the people who were supposed to act chose not to. You will be among the ones who were there, not because you were the most powerful, not because you were the most resourced, not because you had the biggest platform or the most impressive credentials, but because when the moment came, when the choice was between the comfort of the compliance and the cost of the clarity, you chose the clarity. You always chose the clarity, even when it cost you, even when it isolated you, even when it exhausted you, even when you were not sure anyone was watching. You chose it, and that choosing was the order, and the order was received, and what it set in motion is not finished yet, it is only now beginning to show.